Welcome, one and all. Our program is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the stage as we welcome Pastor Rob Fuquay of St. Luke's Methodist Church to lead us in prayer.
Good morning. In 1953, Dick Lugar and his family and a gang of people moved from Central Methodist Church just down the street from us to begin a new Methodist congregation on the north side, which became St. Luke's United Methodist Church. I went there as pastor in 2011 and knew Dick Lugar from that time until his death in 2019. And I'm very privileged and honored to begin our ceremony today with our invocation. Let us pray. Lord, thank you for this beautiful morning. Thank you for this amazing gift together with many of the family, former colleagues, and admirers of your servant Dick Lugar to dedicate this statue to his memory. In a time when division, castigation of one's opponent, self-adulation seems to be the ingredients of successful leadership, we thank you for the example of a leader like Dick Lugar, who put country above convictions, others above self, and God above all. May this monument inspire future generations to learn about this public servant and not only say, oh, we wish we had more like him, but say, oh, may I be a leader like that. And Lord, we would be remiss if we didn't thank you for leaders like Jim Morris, who saw this day happening before we did. Thank you for him and the many others who shared in the work and vision of Dick Lugar and were proud to call him friend husband, father, grandfather, boss, mentor, and lover of God. To you, O God, we say thanks for giving us this special day and blessing us with these moments now. Amen.
For those who can, please rise as Scouting America Troops 303 and 331, chartered by American Legion Post 331 in Brownsburg, present our colors. The Star-Spangled Banner will be performed by the Indianapolis Children's Choir under the direction of Artistic Director Joshua Petty. What makes a man a legend? A legacy not made in a moment, but forged over a lifetime of leadership through dignity and dedication to making a difference, not for glory or gain, but one's duty to God and country. Richard Lugar was such a man, a homegrown hero whose faith called him to serve in communities near and far. From his humble beginnings on the family farm to our nation's grand legislature, he showed the world the merit of a global mindset and the perseverance of the Hoosier spirit. A mayor with a vision, he imagined Indianapolis as one of America's great cities, where creators convene in a community built for ingenuity. A brilliant strategist, never content to be the smartest in the room, he surrounded himself with genius and inspired them to greatness. An honest broker who believed in good governance over partisan politics, and an emissary for peace, known across the globe as a model of diplomacy and a champion of freedom, because that is the Lugar way, an unwavering commitment to servant leadership, and a monument to a life well lived. As the 44th mayor of Indianapolis, Richard Lugar paved the way for the renaissance of our capital city and the next generation of our civic leaders. Please welcome the 49th mayor of Indianapolis, Joe Hogsett.
Indeed, good morning. I'm honored to be with all of you, as we collectively affirm, uplift, and commemorate one of the greatest leaders the city of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana have ever experienced. But before I talk about Senator Richard Lugar, the man whose likeness has been rendered in the statue we are here to celebrate, I'd be remiss if I first failed to acknowledge and honor the late Jim Morris, a man whose likeness is also here with us today, even if he himself cannot be. Most all of you appreciate the fact that Jim Morris orchestrated this entire event. And it's only fitting that he is now presiding over it from his new place atop the mural of the Bicentennial Unity Plaza. His likeness joins that of Senator Richard Lugar. And it's only appropriate that Jim watches down. It's kind of like Jim Morris weather, too. This Unity Plaza was his vision and his idea. He was a great friend to the city and a great friend to many in it. So I want to give my thanks to Jackie and the entire Morris family and Pacer Sports and Entertainment's team for bringing us here together today. Of course, there are innumerable reasons that a man as thoughtful as Jim considered it important to honor Senator Richard Lugar in this way. Senator Lugar's list of accomplishments is by no means short. I would almost certainly be standing up here for longer than you want me to if I were to attempt to list all of them. But Senator Lugar truly left an indelible mark on our city. When he created Unigov, he created what I like to call the beginning of modern Indianapolis. He made us one of the biggest cities in the nation. He set the groundwork for a large-scale revival of our community. And he truly put Indianapolis on the map like it had never been before. Simply put, Mayor Lugar took our city from the minor leagues to the major leagues. And through his nearly 5 decades of public service, whether that is as a lieutenant in the Navy, a successful leader in commerce and business, a member of the Indianapolis School Board, the mayor of Indianapolis, or a U.S. senator representing with dignity the state of Indiana. It was more than his accomplishments that endeared him to so many Indianapolis residents. To this day, public officials everywhere in Indiana, including me, strive to reflect Senator Lugar's outstanding character in the ways we serve our communities. In some cases, we fall short. But we all strive on our best days to achieve that standard, his standard, the Lugar standard. As a man committed to doing what was right rather than what was convenient or politically expedient, He demonstrated his integrity and commitment to uplifting the lives of Hoosiers every day through his leadership. In Washington today, that path seems to be the road less traveled. Yet through his many years of service, Senator Lugar never lost this sense of dignity and unwavering goodwill toward all others, all neighbors, all residents, all strangers, all Hoosiers. These are the qualities that we honor today. To illustrate my point here, I'd like to repeat something I said 5 years ago upon Senator Lugar's passing. When Abraham Lincoln passed, there was some confusion as to what the man at his bedside, Edwin Stanton, Secretary of War, said. Some believe he said, "Now he belongs to the ages." Other scholars argue that Stanton said, "Now he belongs to the angels." But what I believe is the truth of that moment no longer matters. Abraham Lincoln belonged to both the ages and the angels. And as I said 5 years ago, so too does Senator Richard Lugar belong to the ages and the angels. Now, before I leave you today, I'd be remiss if I didn't personally thank two of our neighbors who are responsible for this impressive display of art. Jonathan Hess, chairman of the board at Browning Day, who served as project manager for the statue's construction, and Ryan Feeney for his vision, for his creative talent, and who also happens to be a 24-year veteran of the Indianapolis Fire Department at Station 10. Please give them our thanks. I also want to acknowledge the entire Lugar family present today, including Shar, his loved one. But let me also say that when Jim Morris began the process to bring this statue to life, he was not seeking to eulogize the passing of Senator Richard Lugar. Rather, Jim sought to inspire others to follow in Senator Lugar's footsteps and to continue to carry on Senator Lugar's legacy. Senator Lugar lived a life of exemplary service to others. It is my fervent hope that this statue embolden others to do exactly the same. May God forever bless our senator, our mayor, Richard Lugar.
Wouldn't you know, international duties call me away from joining you all today. I think the man we celebrate today would understand, having been there and done that more than anyone I know. It's a profound honor to address this special gathering for this appropriate unveiling. Simply stated, Richard Lugar was a remarkable man whose legacy has left an indelible, eternal mark on our great state and on our great nation. I'm reminded that in many ways, Senator Lugar and I started out together. You see, I was born just 5 months after he began his first term as mayor of Indianapolis. It's a bit of a amusing coincidence that while he was laying the foundation for a more prosperous Indianapolis, little did I know growing up here that one day I would be looking up to him and, in my eyes, proud of the statesman's mantle that he carried. And so here we are today, over a half century later, unveiling a statue that will stand as a lasting tribute to Senator Lugar's extraordinary life and service, a symbol of his commitment to civility, his commitment to leadership and mentorship to so many, too many to count. These principles were not just abstract ideals for Senator Lugar. They were the cornerstones of his public life and work. Before diving into the world of politics, Senator Lugar wore the naval uniform with distinction in service to Americans that he would never meet. Having worn that uniform, I can say he, as the valedictorian of his high school and college, and a Rhodes Scholar with a brilliant strategic mind, he put the intelligence in the intelligence officer's job description, and he more than filled it. His life was defined by uninterrupted dedication and service to others with integrity. His career was a testament to what it means to lead with grace and purpose. And yet I will always treasure when, as a young buck, well, like me, who got to pick his brain over a cup of coffee and a slice of homemade apple pie at Vera Mae's on the Gibson County Courthouse Square some 25 years ago, what an influence that one conversation had on me. From his days as mayor to his transformative tenure in the United States Senate, he always set an example of civility in political discourse, up close and afar. And I'd like to think some of that rubbed off on me. And for that matter, you too. In an era where the art of principled compromise and the pursuit of progress often seems overshadowed by division, it was Senator Lugar and his ability to relate, to bridge gaps, and foster respectful dialogue. That's a lesson that we should all not only look to, but cherish. His approach to leadership was not just about making decisions, but about mentoring others and setting an example for future generations like many of you there here today. His work on high stakes issues ranging from nuclear nonproliferation to education reform was driven by a vision that extended far beyond his own tenure. He believed in investing in people, in nurturing talent, and in creating a legacy that would far outlive him. Thankfully, his beliefs were realized 1,000,000 times over. So, as we unveil this statue, let it serve as a reminder of his virtue, of the values that Senator Lugar held so dear. Let it inspire us to practice civility in our everyday lives, to lead with integrity, and to mentor and support those who come after us. Because in this time, when our public discourse can often be contentious and strained, Senator Lugar's legacy stands as a beacon of hope and a model of how we can and should conduct ourselves with respect and decency for others. Today, as we celebrate his character and example, let us also recommit ourselves to the principles he championed. Let us strive to emulate his dedication to public service itself and his unwavering commitment to the greater good. And let us remember that leadership is not just about the positions we hold or take, but about the positive impact we make on those around us. Thank you for joining in the true celebration of the life and legacy of Senator Richard Lugar. May his example continue to guide us and inspire us as we move forward together into those fair winds and following seas. Thank you, and may God continue to bless us all and this great nation.
In honor of Richard Lugar's faithful service to our great nation, the Indianapolis Children's Choir presents I Vow to Thee, My Country.
is my fervent hope that we all can live up to this tremendous legacy that Senator Lugar leaves to us. The legacy of cooperation and of unity.
The Honorable Richard G. Lugar.
Indianapolis has been so blessed to have talented mayors who had vision, but I think the first of those was Richard Lugar.
It starts with Dick Lugar, who clearly had his eye on revitalizing downtown, and he was bound and determined that things were going to happen in downtown.
What do you hope to see accomplished in the next 4 years?
I would like to see accomplished not only these immediate goals that we're talking about of full employment for all of our people and of adequate housing for all of them, but likewise a whole new concept of living in which the heart of our city becomes a vital place where many people live.
Dick Lugar had an enormous commitment to young people, to bringing people together, to building a great city. And we suddenly had a higher aspiration of what we might become. And over time, a lot of people, Republican, Democrat, black, white, all the dualisms of the time came together to say, we're going to build a great city. We're going to be competitive, and we're going to be a place where the brightest young people in America want to come live, a great place for people who already live in Indianapolis to stay and want to be here, for kids who are raised here, want to stay here.
He made every call based on the public interest as he saw it. I've been lucky enough to be around a lot of great leaders and a lot of people I really admire in public life, but nobody who met that standard any better than he did.
The thing that appealed to me was that there was a statewide office in which I would have opportunities to serve all of Indiana. And furthermore, it was a 6-year term, which gave a space of time really to achieve things, to pass legislation, to get to know people, to put together coalitions and partnerships.
He represented the people of Indiana well, but he also represented our country well. He was a man who studied the issues deeply, and he was a man who acted on what was best for the country. He's a principled senator.
I think the reason he was so effective is in large measure because in the Senate, your word is your bond, and his word was as good as gold. He gave you his word, and you never had to second guess or doubt.
Any subject dealing with foreign relations or arms control, there's always one person we turn to, and that's Richard Lugar.
He taught all of us that no matter what you look like or where you come from, this country has a place for everybody who's willing to serve and work hard. A proud Hoosier, Dick Lugar has served America for more than half a century, from a young Navy lieutenant to a respected leader in the United States Senate. I'll always be thankful to Dick for taking me, a new junior senator, under his wing, including travels together to review some of his visionary work, the destruction of the Cold War arsenals in the former Soviet Union, something that doesn't get a lot of public notice, but was absolutely critical to making us safer in the wake of the Cold War.
Indiana and our nation were fortunate to have Dick Lugar as a dedicated public servant, and I was fortunate to have him as a very close friend and trusted Senate partner. It's wonderful to know that Dick's example of public service will be understood forever through this statue and memorial. I will forever be grateful to Dick Lugar's family, Shar, and all the family, and I will forever be grateful for my friendship and my partnership with Senator Dick Lugar.
Nobody understands the far-reaching impact of Richard Lugar's legacy better than those who served alongside him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the director of the Hoover Institution, world-renowned diplomat, and former Secretary of State, Dr. Condoleezza Rice.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's wonderful to be here in Indianapolis in the great state of Indiana. Thank you, Mayor, for welcoming me here. You know, I do have a little bit of an Indiana root. I went to Notre Dame, and so I think that qualifies me. But I have to say, when Jim Morris called me several months ago, I think around January, and said that he was planning this ceremony and would I join, I said yes, because I learned a long time ago never to say no to Jim Morris. When he was the head of the World Food Program, or when he had me here for Pathfinder or for a Boys and Girls Club event, he was an extraordinary man. Jackie, we will miss him, but we will never forget Jim Morris. I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about the great Richard Lugar. Char, and to the Lugar family, your father, your husband, what an extraordinary man. I just feel so lucky to have known him during my time. I've known a lot of great Hoosiers. There's the great Mike Pence. There's Mitch Daniels. But maybe none quite like Dick Lugar. If I were to use one word to describe him, I would say he was influential. But then I would have to say, why? How does one become influential in a place like Washington, D.C., with all of those egos and all of those agendas? And yet, Dick Lugar was influential. I first heard the name Richard Lugar when I was at Notre Dame as a master's student. He was the mayor of Indianapolis. And everybody was talking about this rising young star, Dick Lugar. But they always talked about his service to his country in the Navy. They talked about his humility, where he grew up, and that he never forgot it. And that humility characterized Dick Lugar throughout his career. And it was one of the sources of his influence. He put humility, servant leadership, well above ego. This humble man, however, was also an innovator, a creator, a strategist, a problem solver. I was the young Soviet specialist for George H.W. Bush when the Cold War ended. And I can tell you that it was a glorious time in one way, that the dreams and the ambitions and the expectations of Truman and Kennedy and Reagan had finally been achieved. But it was also a dizzyingly scary time, because as the great Larry Eagleburger, then Secretary of State, said, we had seen the Soviet Union dismantled before it was disarmed. And that was a terrifying prospect, that this great nuclear power, covering 11 different time zones, had nuclear weapons spread all over that territory. And it was Dick Lugar, with his compatriot Sam Nunn, who found an answer. The Cooperative Threat Reduction Program is such a bland name for what it really was. It was to make the world safe at a moment when it was decidedly unsafe. We know the story of the Nunn-Lugar legislation that got money so that we could assist the Soviet Union in the dismantling of those weapons. But maybe one part of it that is a little bit shrouded in history was the compassion that also went with that, to shepherd a dying superpower that was still heavily armed, to work with scientists who had been at the top of their game as nuclear scientists for the Soviet Union, and now found themselves without housing, without jobs. His compassion, along with Sam Nunn, in understanding that the very human reaction of those scientists might be to go elsewhere, to go places that would not be in our interest. And so also to work not just for dismantling of the weapons themselves, but of the apparatus that had produced them, and to take care of the people who had been a part of that apparatus. That cooperative threat reduction program didn't just end with the Soviet Union. In 2003, when I was National Security Advisor for George W. Bush, we were able to get Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, to agree to give up his weapons of mass destruction. And it was under the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program that we were able to verify and to help in the destruction of those weapons. And then in 2008, President Obama would extend the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program to bioweapons. And so it lives on today. Despite the emergence now of great power conflict, despite the emergence of a world in which nothing seems like cooperation, the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program remains a cornerstone of security in the world. So this humble son of Indiana was also an innovator, and he was a creator, and he was a problem solver. But he was something more, and that perhaps is more the story of his influence. He was trusted. He was trustworthy, and he was trusted. The American Foreign Service Association, it's actually the union of the Foreign Service, gave Richard Lugar their highest award. Needless to say, the relationship between the State Department and the Congress is not always the best. It says a lot that the Foreign Service Association honored him. He was, of course, trusted across the aisle. He had great respect across the aisle in contentious times. The next time that I would encounter Richard Lugar was in my own confirmation hearings in 2005 as Secretary of State. And my hearings went on, shall we say, for quite a long time. The patience that he showed as chair of Senate Foreign Relations, making sure that everybody was heard to the fullest. I have to say a lot more patience than I had myself, but I kind of took my cue from him, and the hearings went smoothly. Something else that doesn't always happen today. They were dignified, they were truth-seeking. I felt respected, and I think the Senate felt respected too. Together with names like Nunn and Biden and Warner and McCain, Richard Lugar would become known as one of the national security senators. If anybody had a question, you went to those folks. Together with others like John Kyle and earlier Howard Baker, we had a bipartisan center to our foreign policy that really did believe that politics stopped at the water's edge. That when you were representing the United States of America, you were not representing the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, you were representing your country. And that spirit was appreciated too across the world. There are quotes from Philippines and from others. There's the award given to him by the Queen of England. The allies knew that they too could trust Dick Lugar. And that made an enormous difference to getting through what was a contentious and difficult time, and by the way, still is. So why do we commemorate? Why do we bring into being this statue today? Well, obviously, it's to honor this great man. It's to celebrate this great human being. It's to recall all that he has meant to this city, to this state, and to this country. It is, though, to do more. It is to vivify and to bring alive the spirit of Dick Lugar. A spirit that saw a problem to be solved and solved it. Just as our Constitution from Madison on expected, that politics would have to be about cooperation and compromise, not going to one's corner and pouting. He understood that politics was not for its own sake, but it was to do the hard work of the people. This humble, innovative, and trustworthy man modeled what the Founding Fathers would have expected of those to whom the American people would give their trust to govern wisely, to govern honestly, to govern on behalf of all of us. Now, this statue will forever be a reminder of that. But there's something more. I'm a university professor. I can tell you that when I walk into a classroom, they don't remember 9/11, let alone anything that happened before it. They can't necessarily recall the names of those who have served in Washington. And so I imagine that one day, young people, perhaps children not yet born, will walk past this statue with mom or with dad, and they'll say, "Who is that?" And mom or dad will say, "Well, you see, he was the mayor of this city." You will see, she will say, "He was the senator from this state. He served his country in uniform. He put country before self. He put the common good above self-interest." And she will say, "He was a patriot." That, more than anything else, will be the legacy forever of Dick Lugar, and the statue that will remind us that one day we are all called to be patriots, and that when we are called, we should, as Dick Lugar did, answer that call, no matter how hard the problems, no matter how hard we want to fight. It is our responsibility, as it was his, to do for the common good. I'm grateful to have known him. I'm grateful to have called him friend. I'm grateful to have served with him. And as an American, I am just grateful that he was who he was. Thank you.
We are moments away from the grand unveiling, but now, to bring Richard Lugar back home to his plaza, here is a very familiar face and voice to 300,000 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway each May, Mr. Jim Cornelison.
Hello. Jim Morris asked me to be here today, and I am touched and honored to be here. He was, I know, a friend to all of you, to the state, to Indianapolis. Well, let's celebrate, as Jim Morris wanted us to do. Let's be happy, let's feel good, and welcome Senator Dick Lugar back home again in Indiana. Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana.
Thank you for joining us for the unveiling of the Richard Lugar Monument. Following today's program, the sculpture will be installed at the beautiful Lugar Plaza, forever overlooking the heart of our city and the vibrant downtown community our mayor once envisioned, now brought to life. Visit often.